minutes. We are going to start. We have amazing speakers. Attorney Mary Holland, Attorney Bobby Ann Cox, Joe Speaks Truth, Mo Oliver, John Gilmore, and we have some elected officials that are going to be here as well too. We stand with those who stand with us. That's the beginning and the end of it. We stand with those who stand with us. We don't care what party you're with. If you support medical freedom, if you support parental rights, we stand with you. If you know anybody that was up there with us with hundreds of people saying no to this ridiculous vote that aren't here right now, please text them, please call them, please ask them to come, because we're going to start in about 10-15 minutes tops. And we'll get right into our rally and into our speakers. And again, this is just the beginning. Nothing passed today. Nothing became law today. And we'll explain all of that to you. They won one vote. They won one battle, but they did not win the war. We'll be starting soon. Thank you.
So, as you guys can see, we are in Albany right now. Albany, New York. We're in front of the Capitol building here. I'll show you guys. It's gorgeous. And we are going to be having a medical freedom rally today. They were in court already this morning, so there's a bunch of people here already, as you can see, and again, more should be coming out very soon. So I'm just going to kind of walk around a little bit here, show you guys just what's going on. And hey Tammy, hey Wayne. Yeah, so I'm gonna walk down this way a little bit so you guys can see there's this beautiful statue right in front of the Capitol building. So I want to show you because it is really pretty. So we're gonna turn around here and I'm just gonna give you guys this view. Look at that. Is that not gorgeous? That is such a gorgeous, gorgeous building. Beautiful statue right here in front. You can see everybody over there kind of to the left getting ready for this rally today. And guys, you'll have to excuse me. I'm taking pictures with one hand and video footage with the other. So as usual, I am multitasking. So I'm going to flip this around to say hello and good morning to everyone. Hi guys. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Ooh, wrong way. So as you can see, like I said, I'm in Albany today. There is the rally. It should be starting in just a few minutes. There are more people coming down from the courthouse from what I understand, but there are a lot of people here already, so this is very, very exciting. There's a lot of great speakers lined up, including some attorneys. Bobby Ann Cox is here. She's one of the speakers today. Like I said, amazing crew of people already. But I'm going to flip this camera back around so you guys can watch and see what's going on until these speakers start. There we go. But we'll just give you a view of what's going on so far. So guys, make sure you like and share this out, guys. We want everybody to kind of see what's happening. Let them know what's going on. And like I said, you can see there's more people coming down from the courthouse right now, starting to make their way over here. So this should be very exciting. It's going to be a great day. It's gorgeous out today, so beautiful weather.
Thank you. Universal discipline. Let's do the universal discipline. Okay, let's make sure we're like the best.
Only freedom for murders, for rapers. This is the only freedom that they have.
And that's in Syria, and that's in Ukraine, and that's
Thank you.
Well, listen, if there's things that you want to do specifically, you've got my number, you've got
So guys, you can see, I'm going to walk this way, start walking in through the crowd here, show you guys Everybody here so far. Lots of familiar faces. For those of you watching the scenes. This is wonderful so far. You can see just lots of amazing people. And again, the rally should be starting very soon, guys.
I'd love to have you.
All these beautiful sights here.
Actually, I'm reading on your I think.
Oh, here we go. We got good.
Right, guys. So we are just waiting for the rally to start. It should only be a few more minutes until they get started, but just kind of walking around, showing you guys there are quite a few people here. I like your scene. So guys, here's another one of those really cool signs. Oh, absolutely. If there's another side, sure. Let's check it out. All right, check that out, guys. That is absolutely beautiful. Thank you. Yeah, I saw the shirt. I thought that was a really cool shirt. Yeah. Awesome. Awesome. So, like I said, guys, you can see there's just quite a few. Quite a few people here. So, this is a very nice rally so far. Very nice turnout. More on their way. To see this thing here.
There's too much of it. Just can't be really answered, you know? Unless you figure it out and you have your own, you know. Tell me what you got, girl.
Oh, I missed the comment there. Let me see. All right, Tammy. I love you, girl. So I want you guys to see this truck over here. That's why I was walking over this way. I want you to see this. I'm going to zoom in. Really like the sign on the back of that truck. Thought you guys might appreciate that. Zoom back out for you. But as you can see, this is from the back side of the crowd here. So, and again. Hey, Michael. You're stuck in Ohio for a couple of weeks. Well, I might be seeing you then, depending on where you're at. We'll have to get in touch. Hang on, guys. Hello. This is she. Hi. I had one phone call this morning.
I'm sorry, I'm in New York right now. I'm not even at home, so I don't know what I'm getting all kinds of, I'm getting these phone calls. I'm getting phone calls from my friend who is at home with my kids to make sure that everyone's healthy, and I'm just frustrated. So if you can tell me what you need me, like I'm planning on being home later today. So is there somebody I have to meet with or call or? I'm sorry. It's just with you being out of town and feeling stressed out about it. I don't even know where he got from, so I'm just I'm trying to. So I don't. Yeah, I'm sure he's I'm just a little frustrated. And that's what makes me feel. So I apologize. It's just I don't know what to I don't know what to do.
Hello everybody, my name is Michael Kane. I'm the grassroots organizer with Children's Health Defense. And thank you so much for being here today to fight for medical freedom and parental rights. That's what this is about. Children's Health Defense is a 501c3 nonprofit organization. We are nonpartisan. We do not endorse candidates. We don't care if you're a Republican. We don't care if you're a Democrat. We don't care what party you're from. What we care about is protecting and preserving parental rights and medical freedom. We stand with those who stand with us. It is plain and simple. And I'm very happy to announce an elected official who I met years ago in Rita Palmer's backyard when I first got to meet her, right as the COVID crisis was in full swing, and she made her promise to me and everybody there that she supported parental rights and she supported medical freedom, and she has lived up to those promises for the years that she's been in the Senate here in New York. And I give to you Senator Alexis White.
Good afternoon, everyone. I want to thank all of you for coming out and taking a stand and fighting with us to stand up for something that's so very important to our families, to our communities, and to our future. Medical freedom, having choice, parental rights, they go hand in hand. This is such an important message. We've never been mandated before in our lives to have to take medicine. It's always been a choice. It's what our country is built on. That's the foundation of our argument, and that's what we're here to fight for, to make sure that every decision we make as parents and every drug or medication we put in our body or our children is our choice, and that's our right, and that's what we're here to fight for today. So I thank you so much for being here today and standing up to fight with us to make sure that bad legislation that causes mandates on families is not passed. Your voice is critical. Your part is crucial. Please make sure that you're reaching out to Senate and Assembly members. Let them know why you object. Let them know why it's so important. Show them your family history. Tell them your stories and make sure that it gets told. These are important things to share, and please don't give up. Make sure you stand here and fight with us, and I thank you so much for fighting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Alexis. Next, we have another elected official who is my representative, who is the senator from my district, who won overwhelmingly in my district in Nassau County, Long Island. And a big part of that is that he stands with us, he supports parental rights, and he supports medical freedom. I give Senator Stephen Rhodes.
Thank you so much for being out here, and thank you for being part of the fight. As Alexis said, there is nothing more critical. You look at some of the things that pass, the State Assembly and the State Senate, that are signed by our governor. And we are talking about things that are outrageous. Outrageous intrusions on our liberties. Outrageous intrusions on our ability to make decisions for our own children in their best interest. As parents, you have the ability, should have the ability, to make those decisions. It's not the job of government to mandate anything. And I want to thank you for being up here and being part of the fight. As Alexis said, for standing with us in that fight, because your voices are incredibly important. We may be outnumbered in terms of numbers in the Senate and the Assembly, but our voices will not be outnumbered. And you are part of that fight. So it is amazing that you are here today, but for everybody who is watching at home, pick up the phone, go to your computer, send an email, contact your state assembly representative, contact your state senator, explain what it is that you're looking for, and demand that they take action. And I can tell you, if we get that message out there, that message will carry the day, and our children will be the beneficiaries. Thank you for being here, and thank you for your support.
And thank you for supporting our school.
Hi folks, I'm John Gilmore. As a lot of you guys know, I'm sort of probably New York's leading vaccine-related legislation nerd. And I want to share some of my information with you. These folks aren't just here just as senators. They've also got really good bills, all right? Senator Week has a bill that would do the exact opposite of what you saw happen this morning over across the street. Her bill would require a parent must be there to give a child a shot. Yes! Right? Yes! Where do you get these crazy ideas? You just want New York to follow federal law. What's up with that? Anyway. And Senator Rhodes here, he has a bill that basically would prohibit COVID shots, mandatory COVID shots for anybody, anywhere. Yes! Right? Thank you for that.
Thank you for keeping us to the fight. Yes! Thank you. We have your back.
We invited some Democrats to come speak with us as well too, some who had good voting records on our issues. They didn't show up. So we thank them. We thank them for voting correctly, and we wish them to do the same as soon as they, in every instance where they possibly can. But like I said, we stand with those who stand with us. And if they want to come and speak, that's fantastic. We would love that. The next person that I want to bring up is someone who has been fighting for these issues for years and years. Is one of my heroes, somebody that helped to get me into this fight the way that I am right now. A lot of you know her as the Children's Health Defense President on leave, though she's doing other things now as well too. I give to you the great Mary Holland.
Michael, thank you so much. It's so great to be here and to see all of you. And as Michael and as our legislator said, this isn't a partisan issue. Everybody loves their children. Everybody cherishes freedom. So what just happened in that assembly room? How can we understand that those people love their children, those people cherish freedom, but they just passed through that committee two completely contradictory bills. They're treating children like adults, that a 9-year-old could make an intelligent medical decision that could have life or death consequences. Is that logical? No! Not to me. And then they passed a bill that treats adults like children, that somehow your records need to be kept with the state about your health choices. What role does the state have knowing about your personal health choices? And then you have to opt out. Those are two diametrically opposed decisions. How could the same people vote for both of those? Treating children like adults and adults like children. And those are people that I do believe cherish their rights and they cherish their children. And so to my mind, the only explanation for that is corruption. It is that those people are not listening to their conscience, they're not listening to you, their constituents, they're listening to their overlords who are paying their campaign bills. And that's the only explanation for what just happened in there. That is corruption, and we've got to stop that. How do we do it? Like those legislators just said. We send them emails, we get on the phone, we show up just like you're doing right now, which is essential. We've got to send a message. We're done with this. We're done with this corruption. We're done with money and profits before people. And that's what this is about, is it's putting profits for those industries that pay their bills before our children and before us. So as Michael said, I'm on leave right now from Children's Health Defense. My heart will always be with this movement and with protecting children and with protecting our liberties that are fundamental human rights. But I am now involved in the political side of things. I'm not asking for anybody's endorsement, but I'm letting you know that I am working with volunteers in the Kennedy campaign. If anybody wants to reach out and be a part of that, and I hope you will, but it's completely up to you. You can reach me at volunteer at Kennedy24.com. Volunteer at teamkennedy.com. And we would welcome anybody who wants to get involved and help end the kind of corruption that we just saw there today. Thank you so much, Michael.
The great Mary Holland. Just to reiterate, Children's Health Defense is a nonprofit 501c3, and we do not endorse any political candidates, but we do greatly appreciate any and everybody who fights for medical freedom and parental rights. If you are not on Children's Health Defense New York email list, please come to me. We have a list here. I want to get you on there because we have 3 really important weeks ahead of us. We have 3 really important weeks ahead of us. The session ends in 3 weeks, and these bad bills that passed only passed a committee vote. That's it. They are not law today. They still have to go through the Senate Health Committee, the floor vote, and then would get signed by Governor Kathy Hochul if she chose to do so. So we lost the battle, not the war. We have 3 weeks that we need to fight intensely to stop these bad bills. And actually, with that, speaking of bad bills, you over there, the legislative nerd. I think I need to bring the legislative nerd back. Because for what we need to do, and precisely there is nobody better in New York than the amazing John Gilmore.
Hi folks, back again. I just want to emphasize what Michael was saying. Okay, this is like a boxing match. We lost a round, right? And there's going to be more rounds out there. So I'm gonna get into my legislative nerd mode a little bit, but I think you guys got a pretty high level understanding of what's going on here. But just kind of give some ideas of what might happen and how we can fight this going forward, right? So the bill for the shots for the kids, okay? Interesting thing about that right now is it does not have an identical bill in the Senate. It has to have an identical bill in the Senate. So now that the bill could go in today, but it's not there right now, which shows something is sort of weird about that. It should be there, right? And important thing we have to consider right now with all of fighting this is they go home on June 8th, right? And that doesn't give them a lot of time. Right, and as we saw, these are controversial bills, right? They are not used to having 200 people showing up, really focused on bills at their health committee meetings. I mean, if you were there early, they were flipping out. I mean, they brought up 12 cops, and the cops came up, and the cops were standing around, saying like, "Well, what do you want us to do?" I mean, these are people at a public meeting, you know. They didn't really do anything, which I just, if there's any police officers here, just thank you for your service. I've been coming up here for years and dealing with the Capitol Police, the Albany City Police, the State Police, and they've always been very courteous professionals. And their role is usually to tell some very agitated person who doesn't know anything about civil liberties and telling them like, they're not doing anything, leave them alone. So that's a good thing. So anyway, that aside, a little history. The bill about getting the STD shots to minors, pretty much the identical bill passed back in 2019 in the Senate Health Committee, right? And it didn't go any further than that. That could happen with this bill, all right? But it's going to require us to fight like hell, all right? For the next 3 weeks, you're going to have to really focus on your own legislators, on your own state senators, your assembly members, and our task really, folks, is to focus on finding enough Democrats who will vote against these bills, right? It's a numbers game. So if any of these bills go to the Senate Health Committee, there's 5 Republicans over there. I think we can count on them to vote against this. There is 1 Democrat over there I think we can count on, and that means of the 9 Democrats over there, there's 2 we got to pick up, okay? So it could be any 2 of them, but we need 2 to vote with us, right? That's to stop something in the Senate Health Committee, right? So that's one option that's open to us. Another thing is we can really kind of focus on the leadership of the Senate. That would be Andrea Stewart-Cousins, and also the leader of the Speaker of the Assembly, Carl Hastie. Really focus on calling them, contacting them constantly. Because at this late stage in the game, okay, the last thing the Assembly and the Senate as a whole want is some big time-wasting, drawn-out fight, okay? There's something like 10,000 bills now. Everybody up there, all the politicians up there want their bills to get passed, and they get really ticked off if somebody wants to put forward a bill that could waste a couple hours of floor time debating it, because that means their bills aren't going. So we definitely have an advantage there, right? So we've got a lot of work to do. We've been in situations like this before, and we've been able to stop these things. It's just going to really take sort of concentrated effort on our part, and just realize again that this is a boxing match. We got more rounds coming up. We can win those rounds, right? And all we got to do is win the last one, right? So just keep that in mind. The health committee today was clearly, there's a lot of new members on there, and they've clearly been selected to be very pro drug company, right? There used to be 4 or 5 reliable Democratic voices on there who from time to time, some of them almost all the time, we could count on to vote no. Those guys are gone, and they've been replaced by a lot of people who I think they control, and I'm sure that's why they were selected, right? So anyway, there's a lot more other speakers out there. Enough with the nerdism. So thank you very much for being here, and let's keep up the fight.
Thank you, John Gilmore. The next speaker that I want to bring up is one of the principal members of Bravest for Choice. Give it up for the firefighters. Bravest for Choice has been fighting alongside with Teachers for Choice, Finest for Choice, Court Workers for Choice, Educators for Freedom, Medical Professionals for Informed Consent, all of which are co-sponsors for the event today. And the individual I want to bring up right now was forced into early retirement for declining COVID vaccination as a New York City firefighter. But recently, he was reinstated to his job without an exemption and without getting vaccinated. I want to bring up here Captain Brendan Fogarty.
Yeah, this is a
Hello,
really
everyone.
Nice group,
It's nice to be here. Michael told me, by the way, I'm Brendan Fogarty. Most people know me as the 5th grade MVP of Good Shepherd Little League, okay? And today, Michael told me I'd be batting 4th, but I'm up 6th now, so I'm a little mad. You know, yeah, I'm back to work. Everybody says, oh, you're happy to be back? Are you happy to be back? And it's a strange feeling. I'm happy to be back, but I feel like I shouldn't have to be. Because I never should have lost my job in the first place. Okay, so I'm happy, but I'm not happy. It's a strange place to be. I couldn't tell you how I feel about it. And, you know, just being back in the fire department is just, it's where I'm supposed to be. That's my comfort zone, you know, and I'm a round peg in a round hole, you know, and today we're here because of the children, right? They want to take away parents' rights, okay, and I believe, you know, daddy knows best, mom knows best what's for our kids. You know, nobody loves my kids more than their mother does, okay? And the government should stay out of my children's lives and my life. And we sit here today and nobody knows what goes on half the time up in Albany. You know, they sneak these bills in on here. It's a spring day in May. And, you know, they say it's for your health. Health, drug companies, I don't know. Those two don't mix. No. You know, and
Not their business plan.
my children's health, I mean, to let a child make a decision, a 14-year-old, a 12-year-old, an 8-year-old, that could affect their long-term health. Children shouldn't be doing this. It was hard enough for me, 42 years old, to not take that COVID vaccine, you know, with all the ramifications, whether it's health ramifications, financial ramifications, whatever it might be. It was hard enough, but for a child and the pressures that they're exposed to, and to make them do something and allow them to make a decision that they should be making with their parents, not with the government. You know, not with some liberal educator that's going to tell them this is okay for you to do. Okay? It should be for the parents and the child, the one who's most concerned with them. Okay? I'm grateful to be here. I just want to give a shout out real quick to City Councilman Ariola, who was integral in helping me get my job back. And there's a whole bunch of people. Unfortunately, like, I'm back, and again, I'm not happy because guess what? I'm staring at a friend right here who's been fired from her job, FDNY paramedic Karen Rosado. I have John in the back from 62 Engine who doesn't have his job back yet. I have Bernadette Mejia from 38 Engine in the Bronx, 22 years on the job. She's not back yet because the city is blackmailing her with a waiver. Okay, guys? They're blackmailing people. They want Bernadette Mejia to waive her civil service rights and waive her right to sue and waive her right to back pay so she can get the job back that she deserves and never should have lost in the first place. Okay? Rashad Taylor from Ladder 61, Co-op City, he should be back on the job, but he's not. Okay? These are people that the city worked really hard to recruit. Good employees, and we're losing them. Okay? It's not over. Bravest for Choice isn't done fighting. Okay? Lieutenant Timothy Heaton from the 1st Division, fired. He's still not back yet. Over 20 years of service. Fired, terminated. Same thing. They want him to waive his rights. Sign this, we'll allow you back. How come I didn't have to sign anything? I'm back. It's rules for some and not for others. It's not right. Firefighter Jude Pierre, Engine 259. They let him rot for days in headquarters. We went through retraining together. Okay? He went back to work. Then they say, you got to sign this piece of paper, otherwise we're not paying you, Jude Pierre. Okay? That guy should be in the field. That's where he belongs. He's a healthy young firefighter. There's a whole bunch of others that deserve to come back. And there's a whole bunch of other city workers that we're going to work alongside and help them get their jobs back. All right? But today's about the kids. And mom and dad know best. I got 4 kids. Okay? Their mother knows what's best for them. And that's all I have to say.
Captain Brendan Fogarty. We have some breaking news actually, and just to talk about that, I want to bring back up Attorney Mary Holland. Come on up and let people know this.
I forgot last time I was here. So yeah, great. I forgot to talk about the fact that Children's Health Defense supported litigation against a very similar minor consent bill in Washington, D.C. And we won a federal injunction against that law. And we warned the city council. It's a little bit different. They only have one chamber. They only have a city council in DC. And we warned them, and we did Zoom calls, and we sent emails, and we had a huge amount of protest, but they went ahead and did it anyway. Congress didn't act. Congress could have acted over the DC City Council. They didn't. But then we brought a lawsuit, Children's Health Defense, together with parentalrights.org. And we won on 2 grounds in DC. DC still has a religious exemption right, thank God. We don't have that right now in New York. I know some of the legislators are working to reinstate that. But what was the same about DC and here is that federal law disallows, it preempts what they're trying to do. And some of those legislators must know this. So the 1986 National Childhood Vaccine Injury Act requires that the healthcare practitioner who is vaccinating a minor gives the parent or guardian a vaccine information statement. It is required by federal statute. Under our Constitution, federal law is preeminent over state law. So what they're contemplating, and we just learned that there is a same-as bill in the Senate, so it looks like they're moving this forward. I am no longer on staff at Children's Health Defense, so I can't give you my promise, but I can almost give you my promise that if they pass this, there will be legal action taken. But let's not get to that point. Let us send a loud and clear signal that it is for parents to make medical decisions for their children, not for corrupted politicians who are acting for money. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary Holland. Speaking of lawsuits, did anybody ever hear that Governor Hochul loves quarantine camps? I think this crowd is aware of that. Well, we call it the quarantine camp regulation. That's not really what it is. It was a regulation that allowed the health department of the state to detain anybody in any manner, in any place, at any time, just for suspecting that you had any disease that was on their extensive list. There was an attorney who challenged that regulation and won, and beat it, and got it struck down. Governor Hochul and her Attorney General Tish James have appealed that victory. So now they're saying, well, I say they're saying, we want our quarantine camps back. we want the right to do what we want to do when we say we want to do it. But thankfully, this attorney is still fighting for us, and I think most of you here know who I'm talking about. I give to you Bobby Ann Cox.
Hi, everybody. So great to see a crowd here in Albany. Yes, my name is Bobby Ann Cox, and I did sue Governor Hochul last year. On behalf of a group of New York State legislators. So Senator George Borrello, Assemblyman Chris Tague, and Assemblyman Mike Lawler, who's now Congressman Mike Lawler, together with a citizens group, Uniting New York State. And we actually do have some flyers here today from Uniting New York State. We're gonna pass those around. The citizens group has been integral in trying to get the word out about this lawsuit because so many people do not know about this lawsuit. Mainstream media won't pick it up. So last year, Uniting New York State, together with Senator George Borrello, Assemblyman Tague, Assemblyman Lawler, we brought this lawsuit to strike down this quarantine regulation, which would have given the power, or gave the power, to the Commissioner of Health to pick and choose which New Yorkers they wanted to lock up or lock down. So they could have locked you up in your house, or they could have removed you from your house and put you into a detention center of their choosing. There was no time limit. So they could have put you there for days or weeks or months. There was no age restriction. So they could have done this to you, but they could have also done it to your child or to your elderly parent or grandparent. And they didn't have to prove that you were sick. They didn't have to prove you were even exposed to a communicable disease. They could just issue an order of quarantine and you had to obey. Otherwise, you could have been fined or jailed. Okay, so they put in there language that said they could use local law enforcement to help them enforce their quarantine orders. So you could have gotten a knock on your door and it could have been the police saying, I'm sorry, you have to come with me. We have a decree from the health department. There was no way for you to get out once you were in lockdown. What I mean by that is last year when we were having oral arguments in front of the judge, he asked the Attorney General's office, he said, okay, let's say you take a family, let's say you put them into quarantine in a facility, a hospital, let's say. How do they get out? And there was a really heavy pause. And then the Attorney General said, well, I guess they could hire a lawyer and they could sue us. Okay? It's worse than guilty until proven innocent. It's worse. Okay? No rights. This reg gave the citizens no rights. So it conflicted with our existing New York State law. We have a law in New York, we've had it for 70 years, which is a quarantine law. Most states have one. And it says, this is what you do if you do have somebody who's a health threat to the public. They're not conducting themselves in a manner that's appropriate, right? They have some sort of terrible disease and they're spreading it all over to everyone. If you need to remove somebody like that from society, our 70-year-old law says how you do that. And it has steps that you have to follow. called due process. Okay? So they can't just come and take you if they think you have a disease. They have to first prove you have a disease. And not just that you have the disease, they have to prove that you have the disease and you're acting in an improper manner to protect those around you. There are a lot of other due process protections in that law, but the point is that this regulation conflicted severely with our law. It also conflicts with the Constitution. Agencies are in the executive branch. They're under the governor. They serve at the pleasure of the governor. They cannot make laws. They cannot make regulations that overrule laws. Unconstitutional, you can't do that. The reason for that is every 2 years here in New York State, we get to vote for our New York State senators and our New York State Assembly members. Those are the law-making bodies of our New York State government. The agencies are under the governor, and they're appointed by the governor. So the Commissioner of Health serves at the pleasure of the governor. All the people that work in the that work for the Commissioner of Health in the department serve at her pleasure. You can't vote them in and out, so they're not allowed to make laws. They're only allowed to make regulations or rules that help implement the laws. But that's not what they did here. They decided they were going to make a regulation that completely overruled a law. It's unconstitutional, and the judge struck it down, and now they're appealing. So, this is the second battle we've got. We've got oral arguments going on in September up in Rochester in the appellate division in the 4th Department. And if that court overturns the decision, and that court says, oh no, they can have this regulation, what's going to happen is the floodgates are going to open. And you're going to see agencies around the state making regulations that conflict with laws, that conflict with the Constitution, and we're going to be in really big trouble. Because then you have no way to stop it. You can't vote them out next year. So it brings me to one of my big points of today's talk, and that is we need to change the leadership in this state. We need to do that next year, because next year every single state senator and every single state assembly member is up for election. And all the people in that room upstairs that voted to pass those two horrific anti-freedom, anti-constitution bills this morning need to be voted out next year. And we need to organize, and we need to do it together, because it doesn't work to just go around and say to people, hey, you gotta go vote, you gotta go vote. The voters need to understand why they need to vote. They need to understand what these legislators are voting for, what they want to do, the rights they want to take away from you. So we have flyers that are being passed out today from Uniting New York State. I hope everybody will sign up. It's free. They do a weekly newsletter. Sign up for Children's Health Defense. They send out a newsletter. Sign up for Teachers for Choice. It's like you have to stay informed, and then you have to get involved. Show up to the rallies. Show up to the protests. Write the emails, call your legislators, send a handwritten letter in the mail. You have to take part, and you have to get 5 or 10 people you know to take part. This is how we're going to win back our state. We cannot keep going on the defensive. You know, Mary Holland, it's fabulous that Children's Health Defense will take legal action if this bill passes, right? However, we can't keep playing whack-a-mole. Right? Lawsuits take time, lawsuits take money, lawsuits take effort. And all the while, when you're fighting a lawsuit, the government is getting away with whatever atrocity it is that they gave themselves power to do. So people are getting injured in the process. Right? Bravest for choice. We just heard about all of these firefighters that lost their jobs. Okay, because the government was overstepping. So if we had proper leadership, the government wouldn't overstep in the first place. If you had in leadership positions in government, people like you and me who think that, oh, we have rights, we have freedoms, we have a constitution, and they uphold it, you're not going to find yourself having to come to Albany and do rallies. You're not going to find yourself out of a job. You're not going to find yourself pulling your kids out of school and homeschooling them. you're going to have great leadership at the top. There are people like us that will run. We need to support them. We need to encourage them. We need to make sure that they win. Voter registration drives, volunteering for their campaigns. We have to do all of these things, and we have to start now. We can't wait until next year, then it's too late. The elections for this state, the senators and the assembly members, is November of 2025. Sorry, November of 2024. We're in 23. So so it's a year and a half away. We have to start now. So I hope everybody will take with them when they leave today the idea that you have the power to make a change. You are the change, but you need to be the change you want to see. Please get involved. Please get involved. If you want more information about my quarantine lawsuit, there is a website. It's unitingnys.com/lawsuit. There's a lot of information there, pictures, videos, photos, flyers. Please get involved. Please spread the word. And please stand up for your freedoms. Thank you.
Bobby Ann Cox. All right, the next speaker that I want to bring up is someone who is just an amazing leader in his community. And I was honored and proud to be able to ask him to speak at Defeat the Mandates in Washington, D.C., where he spoke in front of over 40,000 people. He is brilliant, and he is on the right side of history with us. I want to bring up Rabbi Zev Epstein. Rabbi, come on up.
Thank you, Michael, for that introduction. Thank you for the invitation to speak, and thank you for inviting me out here on a beautiful day in May and not in the middle of January. I appreciate that. So thank you, Michael. Thank you, John Gilmore, for all the information that you're spreading, and thank you to one of my personal heroes, Mary Holland, for being here today. So I have a friend, a rabbi, who's an expert in the laws of kosher food. His job is to inspect big food production plants to make sure that everything, literally, that everything is kosher. So he's in a big plant in the Midwest, gets in the elevator, he's wearing his white lab coat, his yellow hard hat, his badge says kosher inspector. Gets onto the elevator, goes up a floor, elevator stops, doors open, another man with a white lab coat and a yellow hard hat walks in, and his badge says USDA inspector. So my friend the rabbi smiles at the man and quips, "Hey, we're colleagues, we're in the same line of business." So the man looks at him, a little sour-faced, and says, "Well, I wouldn't say that, Rabbi. I hope you don't take offense, but I don't believe in God." So my friend grins back at the USDA inspector and says, "That's okay, I don't believe in our government." So, was my friend being unpatriotic? That's the question. Let's talk about belief, let's talk about faith, and let's talk about trust. Trust is spiritual. Trust is the bridge between love and devotion. When I know that you love me, I know that you will sacrifice for me. You will put my comfort and safety ahead of your comfort and safety. When I know that you love me, I will develop a sense of trust in you. And when there is love and there is trust, I can begin to entrust you with what I hold dear. I will even entrust you with my life. Now, what about trust in business? So here's a friend, not a friend, a person I know, acquaintance from the neighborhood named Jimmy, walks over to me and says, "Zev, can you give me $20,000? I said, "Why?" He said, "I'm going to invest it for you. I'm going to double your money." So I talked to him about the plan, and I say, "Jimmy, how much are you putting in?" "Nothing. I have no capital." "Okay, sorry, Jimmy, I'm not your man. I can't go in with you." Now, this type of rejection often elicits the question, "What? You don't trust me?" So the response to that question is that trust is a misappropriation of that sacred word, because you don't want my trust, Jimmy. You want my money. So in business, the equation runs backwards. We start with a request for entrustment, which is really a submission. Submit your money to me. But I'm only going to do that if you have a trust substitute to give to me. The confidence that you're very smart, very capable, and dependable, and that I'll get my money back. So that confidence is based, for the most part, on a love substitute. I can't expect you to put your interest ahead of my interest, but I need to see at least that there's a shared interest. So in the spiritual dimension of interpersonal relationships, we go from love to trust to entrusting. In the hard knock world of business, we move backwards from submission based on confidence, based on a shared interest. The question, you don't trust me, means, don't you know that I love you? And it is unseemly and improper when it's asked in business. I think that in the wake of the COVID crisis, many Americans had begun to feel that they were being asked for a little too much entrustment, a little too much submission. I know many Americans who took the vaccine not because they wanted to, but because they felt they had to, or because they felt that they ought to, because government and public health officials were so intent on it. This was a debate in my community in the early stage of the post-COVID era, when it was clearly safe for us to get back into our houses of worship. But the government did not want us to open up yet. So some folks felt that it was our duty to follow the government's directives. They're wrong. In America, submitting to a government directive against one's own better judgment, and certainly against one's own personal beliefs, is not an act of faith or trust in the government. It's actually a show of being unfaithful to the vision that the Founding Fathers had for our government. Because the government, our government, is not based on trust. It's based on checks and balances. And our government does not depend on your submission, it depends on your involvement.
That's right.
So in 2012, a Harvard professor named Dr. Naomi Oreskes was invited to speak in Princeton University. And in 2019, Dr. Oreskes published her lectures in a book with contributions from other academics, and it's an important book. Dr. Oreskes presents her philosophy of science. She says that real science is consensus science. She presents a glowing and idealistic, if not unrealistic, picture of the scientific community. It's a community that celebrates diversity, where all parties are encouraged to engage in fruitful debate from all different angles, and a scientific problem will be granted total consideration and discussion. The end product of the process is a consensus, a conclusion that is held to be true by a majority or by the mainstream of the members of the community. Consensus science is based on three premises. Number one, once the conclusion is reached, it becomes settled science. It becomes an established truth. Number two, the scientists who heretofore were so appreciated for bringing diversity into the academic debate now must submit to the consensus. If they do not, they become outliers, skeptics, or even cranks. And most importantly, number three, if you are a layperson, if you're just a hardworking tax-paying American, even if you're smart enough to raise a family and run a business, even if you had a law firm, if you're a layperson who did not go to Harvard or Stanford or Yale and study science for 15 years, then you are not authorized to assess a scientific question for yourself. Dr. Oreskes bemoans the fact that so many Americans question the safety of vaccines, when that is something that they are not authorized to decide upon. She also is dismissive of so many Americans who believe that God created the world in more recently than 5 billion years ago. Creationists have no authority to challenge a scientific consensus. So Dr. Oreskes does not trust your intelligence. She does not trust her fellow scientists if they oppose the consensus, yet Dr. Oreskes wants you to trust her version of science. And fantastically, she named her book, Why Trust Science. She doesn't mean why you should trust science, she means why you should submit to the scientific consensus. Our government's not based on trust, it's based on involvement. Science is not based on trust, it's based on evidence. So what happens when legislators make so bold as to ask us to trust them at a time when they themselves are submitting their trust to consensus science? What happens is that we get a bill like A276B. So we have to ask Assemblywoman Paulin a few questions. Why did you sponsor this bill? What need does it fill? What problem does it fix? Why are we giving young children the ability to consent to a vaccine? Who asked you for this bill? Was it the parents who have already given their daughters the Gardasil shot because the doctors asked them to? It couldn't have been the other parents, the ones who looked into Gardasil, the ones who know that Gardasil is largely unnecessary for many, many girls, and for many girls was crippling. Were the people who wanted the bill worried about public health? Don't they know that 12-year-olds and 10-year-olds and 8-year-olds do not spread cervical cancer among the population? Do they not know that this vaccine is purely a matter of personal choice? So who was it? Was your office flooded with calls from frantic 12-year-old girls who want to take a Gardasil shot, but mom won't let? No! Or was your office flooded with calls from doctors who are angry that those moms don't trust their authority?
Great question.
It's plain to see that this bill will open the door for a school nurse to call in the 8th grade girls and the 7th grade girls and the 6th grade girls, walk down into her office and browbeat them or bribe them into consenting to a vaccine. The girls' parents will not know what went on in that office. And they won't know if that school nurse herself was browbeaten or bribed into agreeing to that process. So this leads us to the next question for Amy Paulin and Jeff Dinowitz and all the sponsors and supporters of the bill. Do you love us? Will you? You're asking me to entrust into your care my most precious love. Will you put my daughter's best interests ahead of other interests? I stand to lose a daughter. What percentage of the national mortality rate does one little girl represent? So I don't know if there's any love in this bill. I don't know if there's a shared interest in this bill, and that shakes my confidence that you'll do right by me, because the equation runs backwards. No love, no trust, no submission. Legislators who support this bill are unworthy of anyone's trust. I don't want to end on a discouraging note. I spoke to you about love and trust. I want to end off on with a ray of hope. In 1955, our government passed a different sort of legislation. And that law stated that on every dollar bill printed in America, the words "In God We Trust" will appear. 1 year later, in 1956, the government resolved that the phrase "In God We Trust" shall be adopted as America's national motto. And President Eisenhower signed these bills into law. Since that time, in the 70s and 90s, in 2006 and in 2016, these laws have been challenged and contested with the claim that they violate the separation of church and state. And in every case, the law was upheld in American courts. In God We Trust remains America's national motto. So here we have a resolution that originated in our legislative branch, signed into law by the executive branch, and consistently upheld by the judicial branch of our government. And when I read through the history of the national motto, "In God We Trust," I said, hey, there is hope yet for our government. So let's be good, America, and let's be good Americans. Let's invest our trust exactly where it belongs, and let's invest our involvement where it is needed. And let's ask our worthy legislators, please inspire us with the confidence that we seek. We would like nothing more than to tuck our kids in at night, close the lights, and go to sleep knowing that we can depend on you. Thank you.
Rabbi Epstein, the great Rabbi Epstein, thank you so much. I just want to let everybody know we invited representatives from multi-faiths today. Others were not able to attend, but we have often from Christian, the Muslim, the Jewish, and other faiths come and stand with us and speak. But for today, Rabbi Epstein speaks for the faith community, and we love him and we appreciate his amazing words. Thank you so much, Rabbi Epstein. Some of you might know I was a New York City special education teacher for over 14 years, before I was fired for declining COVID vaccination. Thank you. I'll take that. Yeah, I'll clap for that. I'll clap for that. Yeah, so now we get into the educator part of the rally. Working with Mary Holland introduced me to Sujata Gibson, and Sujata Gibson said, I want this case. Long before I was fired, long before I filed my religious exemption, we knew what was coming. So in strategizing with Sujata, she brought it into court, into federal court. And this guy, John DeLuca, was getting on my wife, her Facebook, and saying, hey, your husband, Michael Caine, is suing New York City. You know, I have this idea in this lawsuit. And my wife came to me and said, hey, this John DeLuca guy seems like the real deal. And I was like, honey, I have no time. Do you know how many people like reach out and like say? I was like, just tell him to follow Cain versus de Blasio. Tell him to follow the Children's Health Defense lawsuit. Well, then one day, John, with a group called Educators for Freedom, 200 educators, filed their own lawsuit in the same court as us. And then there were 2 lawsuits that came of that. And one of the most important people in making sure the Educators for Freedom lawsuit took launch, which is called Kyle versus the City of New York, is an amazing educator from New York City, also fired for declining COVID vaccination. And you are so lucky he is here today to speak to all of us. I give to you my brother in arms in this struggle, Mo Oliver. Come on up, Mo.
All right, folks, how y'all doing?
We outside.
Wait, I'm tired. Are you tired?
We outside.
We are outside. How you doing, folks? How you doing? All right. So yeah, you know, I was a teacher for the New York City Department of Education for 23 years, right? 23 whole years. And, you know, that might sound like a sad reality, but it's crazy how, you know, God works and things start to really manifest itself before you. And this is a new revelation for me. So I worked with the Department of Education for 23 years, and I realized that, you know what? God set me on a path. And the number 23 is my number. And it's a sign that I know that something is happening and I need to follow that. Because I realized that after I was fired, I realized that my mother gave birth to me in her 23rd year of life, right? And I was 18 years old when my mother passed away. And at that time in my spirit, it said to me that it's gonna take you 18 years to get over her. And then 18 years later, my daughter was born on August 23rd, right? So the number 23 has been following me. So when I say that, you know, when they say I've been teaching for 23 years, that's the amount of time I was supposed to be teaching, because the Spirit of the Most High God knew that COVID was coming and there was a new work for me to do. And that's to come out here and speak to power about the injustice that's done to our people, right? So I'm not mad, you know what I'm saying? I'm not mad. 23 years is my number, and 23 years of service was what I was supposed to give to the Department of Education, so I could come out here and speak to these folks over here to let them know that God is still in control, right? Yes. No doubt. So, Michael came and asked me to come speak today, and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna come out, because life has been crazy ever since, we lost our job. I filed my lawsuit with the Department of Education. I did my Article 78. I argued my case pro se, and this was in February, and up to now, I still haven't heard anything from the judge. So I learned that, you know what, this is something new for me to do. So I've been very busy, into my new venture. And so I said, I'm gonna come out and speak. And I honestly didn't expect to see what I saw today. I'll be honest with you, I really did not expect to see what I saw. And those of you who are there, you know what I was talking about. I'm just going to go into it because it's not what I plan to speak on, but it's relevant. What I learned, what I know about life is our posterity. That's a new word, and that's written in your Constitution, right? It says, we the people, something, to protect our posterity, right? And our posterity, that's our future, right? The children are our future. And And what I saw today was a direct assault to our posterity, right? A direct assault to our posterity. And here's why I'm disturbed. Here's why I'm disturbed, right? Because I expect, I don't really believe in the political system, and don't take what I'm saying as a reason to not do whatever you're called to do, right? So I don't believe in the voting. I don't believe in the, political representatives representing my life. I believe I'm responsible for myself, right? But don't take what I'm saying as an assault on whatever you think is important for you. If you feel like voting is what you should do, you go do that. If you feel like, checking these political representatives was good for you, go do that. But what I saw today, it hurt me to the gut, and really, like, I don't know if you guys, those of you who saw my life, I felt like I was almost in tears, because, as a black man, understanding the history of black folks in America, knowing what women have gone through in the country, knowing what black women have gone through historically in the country, and sitting at the table watching all of the black women on that panel vote to take away parental rights, that disturbed me to the gut. That disturbed me to the gut. Because, and I'm pausing because I feel like I don't want to, I was taught to not talk when others are talking, so I'm being quiet. So it disturbed me to the gut because the woman, whether black or white, are generally the nurturers of the family, right? That's generally how it is. A mother protects. Like, I've heard stories about mothers in car accidents and lifting up the car to protect the children, like to save the child's life. And what I saw back there were mothers sending children to the slaughter. And that is disturbing. Because where have we come as a society when the ushers of life into the world, right? Women bring the children into the world. They are the ones that nurture them, and they are the most protected. While fathers might go away and say, a little bit of, rough stuff is okay, mothers will protect in a way that you can't explain. And what I saw there was something either psychological, mental, that happened where those women felt it was okay. And it was a majority, it was 100% of the black women that said yes.
Latino too.
Right. And also, there were no black men represented on that table, right? And even some of the white men voted no. Now pay attention, and here's how I see things. Men, we are the beginning of life. Understand that. Our sperm is alive. When that sperm enters into that woman, the life grows. So we deposit, women receive. The woman protects. So what I saw there was that some men, saw the need to say no. But all of the women, particularly the black ones,
And Latinos.
I include all of the Latinos and the blacks all the same. I understand the history, right? The women said yes. And that's what's happening in the world. Our women, our men have been cauterized. Yeah, that's another story, to become women and are left out of the conversation. Meanwhile, our women are going ahead and allowing our children to be ushered into the slaughter. And that made my stomach hurt when I watched it. I'm going home disturbed. I'm going home disturbed. And I will say one thing that made me feel somewhat hopeful. And is that when I left that meeting, I went into the office of Stephanie Zinerman, and she's the assemblywoman for my area in Bed-Stuy. And she was a sympathetic ear, and she understood. And my only hope is that there are still some women out there, right, there's still some women of power out there that understand what's at stake here, that understand that there's a danger happening in our world, right? There's a danger happening in our respective societies. And I hope that she's gonna do something about it. I hope she's gonna do what little she could do to make her voice heard so that our children can be saved. Because really, if there is no children, if we don't save the children, why are we here? What are we doing? If it's not about the future, what are we doing? It's almost social suicide. If you really look at it, if we're not protecting our children, it's social suicide. And I don't want to kill myself, and I don't want to kill my society. You know what I mean? And individually, we have something to do. Like, again, we all have a role to play in this thing. And I don't know what, if that role for you is voting, go do that. Right? If that role for you is coming out here and making noise, go do that. You know what I'm saying? Whatever it is to do, we got to do something. You got to do something. If it's just going to your neighbor and say, hey, this is what's going on, go do that. Because we can't just stay sleeping while our posterity gets decimated. You know what I mean? And my heart is still broken. And normally when I come out here, I'm excited and I want to, cheer you guys, but I can't. I can't, because my children's lives are at stake. Everything that I do in my life is for my kids. It's for my children. I'm out here for my children. You know, I got fired for the Department of Education to show my children that you got to stand for something. Okay? I decided to take a position not to reapply so that my children says that I didn't give up. Right? I took with all of my savings and I opened a restaurant so that I can homeschool my son. So everything that I'm doing is for my children. So if I'm not out here protecting the children, what are we doing? What am I doing? Why am I alive? What is my purpose if I'm not protecting the future? That's all I got to say, folks. Protect our future, please.
Mo Oliver with Educators for Freedom. We have a few more speakers, and then please stick around. We got to do a big group photo up here, okay? So please stick around so we can get a good group photo. And we're going to talk a little bit at the end. I'm going to talk a little bit about the plan forward, the way forward. We got 3 weeks to beat this bad legislation, and we can do it. Speaking of legislation, I'm really honored to have an outstanding legislator here with us today. He is one of the plaintiffs in Bobby Ann's lawsuit suing Governor Hochul over what we call the quarantine camp regulation. I give to you Assemblyman Chris Tay.
Good morning, I'm America's Assemblyman Chris Tagg, and I approve this message. Folks, first of all, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for standing up for what's right. Thank you, most importantly, for standing up for the Constitution of the United States of America. For some reason, that's all gotten lost, that we, the people, control this country. We, the people, control what they do to us, and most importantly, what they do to our children. You know, I was happy to be the sponsor of the Unmask Our Kids legislation. Of course, it didn't go anywhere because Governor Hochul and many of those in the majority party think that they know what's best for you. They know how you should live your life. I don't care if you're Republican, Democrat, conservative, or liberal. One thing that the Constitution of the United States guarantees you is freedom. Freedom of choice, freedom of religion, and freedom to do what and when you want, as long as it's within the law of this country. Yes. I am happy to be a plaintiff in Bobby Ann's case, and I'll tell you what, we're going to win that appeal. Yes. How about a shout out to Bobby Ann, all the hard work that she's done. My friends, when they tell you that you have to have your kid vaccinated, or they tell you that your kid has to wear a mask, or they tell you that your kid has to do this or has to do that, ladies and gentlemen, it's wrong. Yes, that's right. You as the parent, are the boss of your child, not the state of New York. And definitely, sure as hell, not Kathy Hochul. So I'm going to be brief because I got to go to session. But I made sure that I got down here. I just went to one of the craziest Environmental Conservation Committee meetings that I've ever seen in my life. Now we're going to spend millions of dollars across New York State to put wildlife crossings on our highways.
What?
And I'm wondering, I don't know of any beaver, woodchuck, or deer that knows how to read a sign. And if they do, wherever that deer come from, that deer's going to be very, very wealthy. But my friends, we are at a crossroads in this country and in this state. And if we don't stand up and fight for our Constitution, for our children and our grandchildren, and the future of this country, then we have nothing.
Yes.
Amen.
And there is no other place to go.
I still believe that America is the greatest nation in the history of the world. It's about goddamn time we start acting that way. So I'm going to ask you as I close, because you know I stand with you. I'm going to ask you to stand with me. Let's make a difference in New York State. We can do it. If just 300,000 more New Yorkers had voted for Lee Zeldin last November, we wouldn't even be having this discussion right now.
Yes!
So my friends, no matter what your political party is, no matter what your beliefs are, I ask you to do one thing. Put America and your family and your children first. No ideology, no politician. America, New York, your family and your children first. Let's do that. Now, we got a lot of hard work in the next 2 years. We got to turn this state around. We got to put people in there that actually care for we, the people.
Yes.
So I'm going to ask all of you to join me. From now until next November, will you join me?
Yes!
Let's turn New York around. Let's turn America around. God bless each and every one of you. God bless the greatest nation in the history of the world, our United States of America. God bless.
In God we trust. In God we trust. Woo!
Oh, we got no power.
We
got no power. Let's see.
Kathy Hochul.
Kathy Hochul cut off the power. No.
Yes.
Hey. I just want to remind everybody, Children's Health Defense is a non-profit 501c3. We do not endorse candidates, but we do support all those who support us and all those who fight for parental rights and medical freedom. God bless everyone that does that. We have 2 more speakers. I want you to stick around because we're going to get a nice photo here when we're done. But the next speaker that is coming up is someone who is a legend in the streets of New York City. If you've been fighting for medical freedom in the past 3 years in New York City, you know who this woman is and who's coming up. I give to you Joe Speak.
Kathy Hochul,
Say no.
They don't want me to speak. It's okay.
It's okay.
The
You don't need the
globalists
mic.
got the energy. The globalists.
Going out. Let's see. Oh, hey, it's back again. Hey, Joe, come on up. Joe Speaks Truth.
I guess the demons inside these buildings don't want me to speak, apparently. But oh my God, it has been such a long journey. I remember when I started back in 2020, I was trying to warn people about the lockdowns and the restrictions, and I got into it with certain people, including people that I went to high school with, who ended up removing me as a friend because they thought that I was being selfish and a sociopath. But I still didn't stop, and I didn't care if I was by myself because I felt the need and the urge to alert other people, like, look, this is what's going on. And if we don't stop this and if we don't resist, the agenda is going to continue. Before they even roll out the vaccines, I already knew that the vaccines were coming because unfortunately, when I was 16 years old, I read a book, and I always talk about this, called Behold a Pale Horse by William Cooper. And that book opened up my eyes, and from there forward, I stopped watching television. And my mother thought I was having a mental crisis because she couldn't understand why would a 16-year-old teenager stop watching TV, and I even took it out of my room because I learned that TV was being used to brainwash the masses with certain messages and propaganda. And so at an early age, I was very different from my peers. I didn't fit in anywhere I went. No school, no college, no work. And people, would tell me that I was weird and strange. But I thank God for that, because my difference was the main reason what got me here. Because when I started speaking out, people were against me. My own family thought I was crazy. But that didn't stop me, because I felt like I don't need to fit in with nobody. I was able to grow up all these years and being ostracized and be the black sheep of my family, so I can stand alone. And so as time went by, and I kept telling people, I was trying to warn people eventually about the jobs, right? And I was hoping that everybody, NYPD, FDNY, and every other city workers, I was hoping that we could have shut down the city, because I knew that we had the power all along, and without us, the city cannot operate. It's an illusion of power, right? These people might be sitting in higher places, but if we all revolted and we would just stay home and be like, okay, well, we're not going to go to work today. These people, they can't drive the train. They can't conduct the train. They can't drive your buses. They can go teach at your schools. I was working in school as a paraprofessional. And so I lost my job. October 1st was the last day. And when I left the school and I got that letter saying that if I was to try to go back, it would be considered trespassing, I left in tears, okay? I left in tears because I'm not a mother, but my biggest dream since I was 8 years old was to be a mother, and I am an aunt. And so the kids that were in the community that I was taking care of, I treated those kids as if they were my children, because I understand that a lot of these kids had issues at home. Sometimes they come, from households that don't have the most healthiest, loving parents. And so I felt like it was my duty as a person that was working with the children to possibly give them the love that they needed at home. And so I'm still devastated from this, but the one thing that I'll say is that there were people that mocked me and said, when you start to see yourself with no money, you're gonna go run and get that vaccine, right? And time went by, and I had some savings, and I'm not even gonna lie here. There have been times where I have had $5 in my bank account, and I used to have thousands of dollars saved, right? But by the grace of God, even though I have $5 in my bank account, I am still me. Your job and your money that you are making in those careers, they don't define you. You are somebody first without that career. And God put us here for a reason. And I feel like the reason why I was born to be a service, it was to expose the truth, because in my family I was a black sheep, right? And we all serve a purpose, and I'm very happy for the people that got back their jobs, though I wish, like it was stated, this should have never happened. And I believe that every person that lost their job, whether they want to go back or not, should be given back pay for emotional and financial damage. Because financially, I've been hit hard. Emotionally, it took me some time for me to be okay with what happened. Because there are some times where I have felt extremely angry. I'm not even going to lie. Angry at my administrators, angry at the city, angry at my family, angry at everybody else that just sat there. Because I feel like even if it was one person that got fired, and I was sort of being a principal, I think I would have lost my job. There's just no way that I would have been able to sit back and be like, okay, well, let's just let that person get fired, knowing that we didn't do anything wrong. That's the part that really hurt me. None of us here did anything wrong. We did not go to our jobs. We didn't not comply with what they wanted us to comply with. We were fired, and it was an injustice that still hurts me. And then when it comes to this topic of parental rights, like I said, I'm not a mom, but I always wanted to be a mom. And there are times where I'm not even sure if I'm going to be able to even have that, because I wanted to have like my own beautiful home, a car, a family, a husband, my children, right? But then at the same time, I feel like the agenda is that they want to depopulate. They don't want us to have children, right? So a part of me is conflicted, because I'm like, I want to have children, but at the same time, should I even bother because of the way that the world is going? And regarding that, I know that there has been some people that think I'm a little crazy, I'm very wild, but you guys have seen nothing yet, because if I would have had a child, you guys would have really seen something completely different than what you guys see. I'm an aunt, and to me, my nieces, I like my children, right? So giving birth, I've never given birth, obviously. Giving birth is painful, right? Creations take pain. Anything that comes to you easily, people don't tend to appreciate that because you didn't work too hard to get it. So it's like, it's nothing. Just like the firefighters had to go to training, and the school system, you had to go through a process, and the healthcare workers, you got to go to college and do X, Y, and Z. So burning is pain. So it baffles me how there are people that were able to give birth and have children, which is a gift from God, that some women, unfortunately, due to medical reasons, can't even have children. How do you give birth and go through that painful process, but you don't have it in you to protect your child? I don't understand that. I don't understand that. It doesn't make any biological sense. It doesn't. You should feel the urge from the pain that you gave birth to that child to come in line and protect your child. Now, when it comes to a lot of the parents, based on what I saw in the school system, a lot of parents are completely brainwashed. A lot of parents on purpose will put to work and spend their time at work so they won't have time to see what the government is really doing. And so, unfortunately, in some cases, parents are using the school system as a babysitting center, and they don't have any idea that they have their God-given rights that the government is violating. In the school that I worked at, it was mostly Blacks and Latino parents, and unfortunately, they just had absolutely no idea. And so they play out of the ignorance of the people. And that's why education is so powerful. The government took over education, because if I'm the government, I control your education, why would I want to empower you and give you real knowledge? If I do, you're going to stand up to me. And that's what they don't want people to do. The more education you have, and I'm not talking about college, I'm not talking about college. I'm talking about common sense education, when you're able to have the discernment to see someone is lying right in front of your face in the way that they've been lying to us for so many years, and people still don't have the ability to even reason. Even if they're lying right in your face, you can't even see it, right? And then what we saw today in this meeting, it was absolutely disgusting. I am appalled, and I do wonder, I do have the question, are they really this slow? Or are these people being paid by somebody? Because I refuse to believe that they don't understand why some of us are so angry. I refuse to believe that they don't understand why some of us are in so much pain after we have lost our jobs. Guess what? Had we had our jobs, we wouldn't be here today. Have you guys been doing the moral thing? We wouldn't be here today. But I'm going to close and say this. I want you guys to make a promise, especially those of you guys that have children. No matter what law, if it gets into law or not, because it's a process that they have to go by. I have been reading the Bible lately, and I've given my life to God, because I need something I needed to find comfort in something, right? And all I'm gonna say is that I don't care what gets passed into a law. I will not bow down to another human being. You guys understand that? I will not bow down to these people. They are not God. Because it seems like they're playing God. Because, you know, it's like we're children, and, you know, when you're a child, you see your parents as gods, because you depend on them for your survival. They think that we depend on them for our survival. I don't depend on y'all, because I have about $5 and I'm still standing. I've been broke and I'm still standing. I have no job and I'm still standing. So I don't need to depend on any of these people. And please, when you leave here, again, even if these people make it into a law, hopefully not, even if they knock on your door, even if they come, do yourself the promise that no matter what happens, you will continue to resist the agenda, because they're going to continue to roll out things. And even if we are in the minority, remember that your soul is not for sale. Your children are not for sale. Your body and your DNA is not for sale. And even if they do whatever, understand that even if you were to die in this, at least you die with your dignity and your self-respect intact, and your children or whatever other generation will get to see that, okay? Because what we do, they see, and what we do, they will emulate. So make sure to be careful what steps you go on, all right? Thank you.
Okay, so we have one more speaker, then we're going to do a big photo up here. And I just want to go over something so we know where we're at right now. We don't know what the exact plan is, but here's what we know. The minor consent bill, I'm just going to focus on that for right now, and the database, but especially the minor consent, passed the Assembly Health Committee. Tomorrow, the Senate Health Committee has a meeting. Right now, the Senate minor consent bill is not on the agenda. But I feel like we're gonna go home, and while we're driving, it's gonna go on the agenda, because that's the ridiculous nonsense they do in Albany. They don't want oversight, they don't want you to know what's happening, they want to trick everybody and have it happen when you're not looking. So what does that mean? Stay tuned to ny.childrenshealthdefense.org and teachersforchoice.org. We will get up the info as quickly as we can if they try a sneak attack for tomorrow, which they could. That could happen. We would encourage people to come back here tomorrow, to come and to get into the Senate and where the Senate Health Committee is and make noise just like we did today. I know that's a big ask. I don't know that I can do that. But if it's possible, if you know people who can, if you know people who want to stop this bill, stay tuned. We'll have information at ny.childrenshealthdefense.org and at teachersforchoice.org. And if you don't have communication with us, give me your email address. I think Noelle has the, back there, Noelle has the sheet where she just taken email addresses, and we'll try to get that out right away. And regardless of what happens tomorrow, we will have a plan going into next week. Thursday, the lawmakers will go home, thank God. They will be gone. Stop doing damage for a little bit. And we will regroup for what our plan is for next week based on the information we get and based on what we know. Okay, so with that, while I was here today, I met an individual who is supporting health freedom, supporting medical freedom, supporting parental rights, and he has made the decision to run for office. And he said, can I speak? And we said, yeah, sure, come on up and speak. I want to give to you Caleb. Caleb, come on up.
Well, first of all, thank you very much, everyone, for doing this. Thank you to Michael. Let's give it up for Children's Health Defense. Let's give it up for the Bravest for Choice. Let's give a shout out to our attorney Cox, who's going to sue Kathy Hochul and win. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Caleb Slater, and I am running for the New York State Senate. As it stands right now, the supermajority that one party holds it by one seat, and I'm running in central New York, Syracuse and Auburn, and the most viable seat in our entire state to flip. But I'm not here to talk about parties. I'm here to talk about values. And you are either supporting parental rights or you're not. You're either supporting medical freedom or you're not. There are people here today with Kennedy shirts, and there's people here that have shirts that say America First. I don't care if you're a Republican. I don't care if you're a Democrat. I stand for medical freedom. And I want to talk to you today about sacrifice. You see, Benjamin Franklin once said that those who are willing to sacrifice a little bit of freedom for a little bit of security, in the end, will have neither. And how many times do we have to see that? We saw that 2 decades ago when the government said, give up your privacy, let us do the Patriot Act, it's going to be good, it's for your best interest. It was never for our best interest. We saw this during COVID, where they said, listen, 2 weeks to stop the spread, stay home, it's for your safety, it's for your security. Well, 2 weeks turned into 2 years. And then they said, take the shot. The same people that they said were heroes, frontline workers, our medical professionals, our teachers, our firemen, our military, our people that the state on day one said, we support them. When they didn't do the bidding of Johnson & Johnson and all the big corporations, now all of a sudden they lost their income. What we need to do is stand together, and we need to oppose the mandates. We need to oppose the violations on freedom, and we need to stand as one. Let me give you a little bit of context as to my race and why it's so important to get involved early. I'm running against a senator. You may have heard of her. Her name is Rachel May. Rachel May was on the Aging Committee during COVID and authorized all of those sick people going into nursing homes. People would call her office and say, I want to see my grandmother, I want to see my mother, I want to see my family, and she wouldn't answer. If you want to see your mother, it's your right. If you want to see your grandmother, it's your right. If you want to see your family, it's your right. And who is the state to try and divide up a family?
That's right.
Right? Can we give it up for some families, please? Thank you. And that's what I want to speak to, because a lot of people, when they run, they say, oh, I'm running to do this, I'm running to do that, and I am running to do those things. But again, I'm going to go back to where I started with sacrifice. Why am I running? I'm running because freedom isn't free. Right. Not only are there military officials and people who fought against threats to our constitutional rights, both foreign and what we're seeing in New York domestically, but my family sacrificed a lot for me to have the right to stand here before you today. I'm going to tell you a little bit about that background. My grandmother gave up everything she had escaping communism in the Dominican Republic, July 4th, 1970. Right? Let's give it up for people who came here. We celebrate Independence Day twice. We celebrate the freedoms that you and I all share and celebrate the journey that my family came to get here. But you know what's sad? My grandmother, who gave up everything and loves this country, she, like many of your family, many of your friends, many of your relatives, many of your neighbors, she left New York. She doesn't live here anymore. She lives in Kissimmee, Florida, because she will tell you that the very totalitarianism that she ran away from, the very communism that she ran away from, it's present right here in New York. If the state is powerful enough and it's so big enough to tell you the medical decisions that you can make, if it's so big to tell you how to heat your house, they want to get rid of gas stoves, they want to get rid of fossil fuel hookups. That's not America. That's a violation of our freedom. That's a violation of our liberty. That's a violation of our property rights. And the second thing is my grandfather. You see, my grandfather was a World War II veteran. He marched with Dr. King. He advocated for us to all have equal rights in this country. Well, now, it's no longer primarily disparaging amongst race. It's disparaging amongst class. If you notice, the Congress and the representatives in government here in New York, they didn't have to take the COVID shot. But you did.
No, I didn't.
But we did. You see what they did right here in Albany today to try and stop you from understanding the types of STDs that your kids are getting, the types of treatment that your kids are getting. But they wouldn't advocate for that lack of information to go to their own kids. You see what I'm saying? So we need to stand together. We need to stand strong. I'm starting early. I don't care what your party is. If you stand for freedom, I stand with you. Amen. Your values are my values. Your freedoms are my freedoms. Your state is my state. And I'll end with this story. Like many of the people, like my grandmother and many others, I was thinking about leaving. I was thinking about going to Texas. You know, some people say Florida. I was thinking the great state of Texas. But when I was down there, I was at a conference, and I met someone who runs this organization, Moms for Liberty, which advocates for parental rights. Yeah, Moms for Liberty. Some people know it, yeah. The founder's actually from Utica. She's a New Yorker. And I told her that I was thinking about leaving. And she said, you can do that, but if you do, you're giving up on your home. You've sacrificed every fight that we need to have here today. And I ask you this question. If you're thinking about leaving, if you're thinking about giving up, if you're saying this fight is too much, I'm going to ask you the same question that she asked me, which inspired me to get on a plane and come back here and fight for our freedom. Are you ready to start taking stars off the American flag? Because I'm not, and you shouldn't be either. Thank you. God bless you. I'll be around. Let's stand up for freedom, guys.
Thank you so much. All right, so I just want to say one more thing before we come up here and wrap up with a photo. If you have not visited your senator and your assembly person today, do that. Stop by their office. They're probably in the LOB. There's a few in the Capitol, but most are in the LOB. You could find it on the websites, on the assembly website, if you don't know who they are. But you need to start knowing who they are. Make sure you do. If you want, go and give them this letter. This is a letter that was written by myself and Dr. Merrill Nass. Over 1,500 doctors and medical professionals have signed it, saying that medical professionals support parental rights and medical freedom. Make sure you're getting this to your elected officials. Make sure they know you came to Albany today. How many constituents do you think they see coming up here? Especially for those of you who live far away. So, we're wrapping this up. It's not too late. You have time to go into the building, go through security. It'll be easy. Find your elected and make sure they see that you're here. And you tell them you oppose the database bill and you oppose the minor consent bill. Also, the Senate Health Committee might be important tomorrow. As we're saying, you can go to the Senate website, which is nysenate.gov. nysenate.gov. And search for Health Committee. It'll come up and all the members are there. John Gilmore does it for us so often and sends it to us. But you know what John's doing today? He's driving. He's driving back home. So he can't do it. So why don't you do it? Why don't you go to nysenate.gov, search all the Health Committee members, get all their phone numbers and emails together, and send it to everybody you know. And tell them to call them. Call them tonight. Call them tomorrow. If they get enough calls, it can make a pause. We stopped the vote last week just with calls and emails. So you can do it. I want to thank everybody for coming here. We had an amazing day, amazing energy, amazing sponsors. Children's Health Defense was a sponsor. Cafecito Break, Moms for Liberty, Bravest for Choice, New York Freedom Rally, Uniting New York State, and so many groups I'm going to forget. Do we need this? So many groups I'm going to forget to mention. But with that, everybody who's willing to put your face in a photo right now, come on up here. We're taking a photo in front of the Capitol. We're all going to come up here. Bravest for Choice, please come on up here. Everybody that took the long trek to Albany to fight. Let's get together and let's get a good photo here. Thank you everybody so much.
I know. Now we're going to go get our picture taken. So anyway, guys, make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you share this out so everybody can see the Rally for Medical Freedom. It was a blast hanging out here. I'm going to put up some photos then in a little while. But I just wanted you guys to be able to see this awesome, awesome rally today. We're up here in Albany. So I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll talk to you soon. God bless you guys. Love you.